The 2019 recruiting season has finished, signing day is over, but what does it all mean? Let's dive in right now. Welcome back to the channel, College Football Media. If you enjoy any of this content, please subscribe for future content just like this. So let's look at a few trends with the recruiting rankings, see who went up, see who went down, see who's pretty much about the same and is still going to be successful. So we'll start there with who will still probably be pretty successful coming into next season, staying consistent at the top of recruiting classes from last year. I've got 5 teams for each of these. So staying successful consistently, who these teams did another great job this year of keeping their recruits up, having a highly ranked class. And by the way, all of these recruiting rankings I'm getting in this video from 24/7 Sports. So we'll start with the #1 class on 24/7, which is Alabama. They've consistently been recruiting since Nick Saban has got there tremendously. That continues this season, and that should follow up on the field this coming season with success still. #2, Georgia. They are the second ranked class on 24/7 Sports, and they will, I'm sure, have another successful season coming next year with having a successful recruiting class. Again, Kirby Smart has done an amazing job at Georgia recruiting since he's got there. He's going into his 4th year and has followed up his #1 ranked class last year in 2018, this year with the 2nd ranked class. And that, I'm sure, will translate into more success on the field in his 4th year. Now to a 3rd-year head coach, Tom Herman in Texas. Texas had I believe a top 5 class last year in 2018, and he comes in at #3 this year on 24/7 Sports. And so Texas is looking for a big jump on the field, but their recruiting has been consistent from last year. 2 really successful seasons for Tom Herman in the recruiting cycles, and on the field was really good this year, winning the Sugar Bowl against Georgia, getting to the Big 12 championship game. But next year, a lot of people are looking for another jump from Tom Herman and that Texas team. And maybe on the field, they'll be back because they are in recruiting. The next consistent program coming in at #4 for consistency is Oklahoma. Now, they are ranked #6 in the nation on 24/7 Sports. We'll come back to some of the others later. But Oklahoma has been successful since Bob Stoops and then Lincoln Riley stepping in. I believe he's going into his 3rd year now. He gets the transfer Jalen Hurts at quarterback. We'll see how that ends up. Because the last 2 years, Lincoln Riley coaching quarterbacks, they have both transferred in. Both Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray were transfers. They didn't start the first year that they transferred, but they were transfers, and both won the Heisman Trophy. So it will be very interesting to see how Jalen Hurts does next year in the Lincoln Riley offense. Another successful year recruiting. I know I've talked about on the field there for a minute, but he's keeping his recruiting consistent and will keep them consistent on the field too. The last consistent, successful recruiting program I have for you is Clemson. Now, they're ranked #10 in the nation in this recruiting cycle on 24/7 Sports. But Dabo Swinney hasn't always had the 1st or 2nd ranked class. He's done more with what he's had. And now, don't get me wrong, he's an amazing recruiter, but he doesn't specialize in it. Of course, he has Trevor Lawrence, and really that's probably all you need to get back to where they were. And that's why I have them still consistently. Even though they're ranked #10, it's not low. It's really not. Relatively, compared to everybody else, it's a little lower. And there's some other teams ranked on here that are lower than Clemson and stuff, or higher depending on how they're trending. But he doesn't need a top 5 class to be consistent. #10 is perfectly fine for Dabo Swinney and Clemson to be consistent on the field next year. So now let's look at 5 teams that are trending up this recruiting cycle. The first team, and the highest ranked team I have, is Texas A&M. Now, They're ranked 4th on 24/7 Sports recruiting this year, 2019, which is a jump from last year. Jimbo Fisher will be entering his second year, I believe, at Texas A&M, and we'll see how much of an immediate impact that these recruits will have on Texas A&M next year. But look for them to be trending up either next year or following. The second team I have is LSU. They're ranked number 5 in the recruiting rankings this year, and again, like Texas A&M, they are trending up. They had a huge jump from the recruiting ranking that they had in 2018, jumped up all the way to the top 5, as with A&M. And Coach Orgeron really needs it. He needs to beat Alabama. He needs to continually beat Texas A&M. Crazy game last year. A crazy game between LSU and A&M. But before that, LSU had dominated that rivalry with A&M and had won just about every game since A&M entered the SEC. But LSU needs to win the big games. That's what it boils down to for Coach O if he wants to keep his job. And he did. He did last year. He won the big games. And that's why he still has a job. And I know it's way early and this isn't a hot seat video, but Coach Orgeron is really, really looking good. But at some point, he has to beat Alabama. He has to beat the big names in the SEC. They beat UCF in the bowl game. Granted, if you're an SEC fan, you're thankful for that. If you're not, then you're not thankful for that, obviously. But Coach Orgeron beat UCF, and no disrespect to UCF fans, but it's still UCF. It wasn't a Power 5 school that LSU beat. They were playing for pride. But with recruiting trending up, look for LSU to see if they can follow that trend on the field as well. The third team trending up in this recruiting cycle is Oregon. They rank number 7 on 24/7 Sports, and Mario Cristobal is doing a really good job with this Oregon program. I believe he will be entering his second year as the Oregon head coach, and he returns Justin Herbert. Huge deal for Oregon to return Justin Herbert. If they didn't, they probably would not be in the spot that they are in terms of projection to next year. Way too early for that, but nevertheless, a lot of people really think Oregon will do better next year just for the fact that Justin Herbert's coming back. And the recruiting this year will tremendously help that. Tremendously for Mario Cristobal to help fill that roster with talent for Oregon to have success on the field with an experienced quarterback. The next team trending up is Florida. They're ranked number 9 on 24/7 Sports. Dan Mullen and the Florida Gators as an entire program is really trending up. He's taken the program from where Will Muschamp left it and where Jim McElwain left it and really improved it very quickly for it to be his first year last year. And Florida, again, like some of the other schools, had a huge jump in their recruiting rankings between last year and this year. That they're ranked number 9 this year on 24/7. And Dan Mullen, just as a whole, you saw a big improvement in the second half of the season last year. And look for that to continue this coming year. Especially with bringing in a top 10 class, that's very important, especially for Florida, who deals a lot with swag and a part of their culture to be a successful program. And the last team that I have listed that I think is trending up is Tennessee. They're ranked number 12 with Jeremy Pruitt entering his second year as head coach. Tennessee has taken a huge jump in recruiting. Again, as I repeat myself, from all the other programs, but that's huge for Tennessee. They haven't been this successful in a long time, probably since Philip Fulmer was the head coach. And Jeremy Pruitt has taken a Tennessee program from ruins, really, of how bad that program really was. Nobody wanted the job. And just after 1 year, Jeremy Pruitt has the recruiting 2 spots away from a top 10 ranked class. You have to give a lot of credit to Jeremy Pruitt for that, in hiring his staff and recruiting himself. Tennessee's ranked number 12, looks for on-the-field improvement because of that, and it might take a little longer for Tennessee than some of these other programs. These other programs started a lot higher than Tennessee did from trying to build. Tennessee started to build from a lot lower foundation. Jeremy Pruitt has to lay the foundation, and through the first year he's done a good job of that, but he has to keep building, and it may take a little longer than some of these other programs trending up, but look out for Tennessee, because they're ranked number 12, and if that continues, then in 2, maybe 1 year, but probably 2-3 years, Tennessee could be battling Georgia and Florida in the East. So lastly, let's look at 5 teams that are trending down in this recruiting cycle. The first of those teams is Ohio State. Now, I know I just talked about Tennessee being 12 and trending up, and Ohio State is 14 and trending down, but Ohio State and Tennessee were at completely different places. Ohio State with Urban Meyer was a top 5 program, and I'm not saying that they're still not a top 5 program as a whole, but with the changing of the guard and the bad, especially the bad things that happened before the season last year with Urban Meyer and the whole Zach Smith case, really hurt their recruiting cycle this year. And you can see it now, ranked 14 out of the top 10 for Ohio State. That's a pretty big deal. Now, Ryan Day could overcome that very easily. There's still a lot of talent on that team. And some more news, Justin Fields is eligible to play next year for Ohio State. So it's definitely something that Ryan Day and the Ohio State program can overcome, but nevertheless, it's trending down from where they were with Urban Meyer. Next is the team right under Ohio State, ranked number 15, and that is Notre Dame. And really the only reason I have them on this is because they reached the college football playoff last year. Brian Kelly did really good and had an amazing undefeated regular season last year, but they got their brains beat out by Clemson in the semifinal. And a number 15 class probably isn't where Notre Dame should be. Similar to why I have Ohio State on this list is because of the on-field success that they've had in the past 5 years. Ohio State won a championship in 2014 and had Urban Meyer as their coach. Notre Dame is Notre Dame, one of the biggest name brands in college football, arguably the biggest name brand, and reaching the college football playoff last year and not making the top 10 in recruiting. Could see some trending down, just for some explanation of why both Ohio State and Notre Dame are on this list. Just following them, ranked number 16, is Florida State. I also have them trending down from recruiting this year, and there's a lot of other factors that go into why I have them trending down. DeAndre Francois, Willie Taggart. It's not the best picture at Florida State right now. The atmosphere is not that great being perceived from a third party outside the program. It doesn't look that good. Now, of course, I don't know what's going on inside that program, but as a whole, it just seems like there's a lot of problems going on that Willie Taggart needs to get corrected very quickly. And specifically in recruiting, Florida State hasn't had a quarterback sign in 2 years. 2 years, Florida State. It doesn't seem that long ago that Jameis Winston was at Florida State, and they can't get a quarterback to sign at all. It's strange, it's weird, and Jimbo Fisher left this program just 2 years ago. Willie Taggart's entering his 2nd season, and the program does not be looking like it's in a very good place and very healthy right now. Florida State is probably the lowest on the field product that we will see next year. compared to Notre Dame and Ohio State, also trending down, that I have. And so that'll be a huge gap. There's still going to be a huge gap between Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Florida State. There's going to be a huge gap between those two and the one. So we'll see how it ends up in 5 years where all these programs are at. But Florida State being ranked 16, it's not a terrible ranking, but a lot of the outside factors of not signing a quarterback and DeAndre Francois, that situation, and just Willie Taggart as a whole, they missed a bowl game this year, the first time in however many years, just such a long period of time, probably 20, I think, something years. And so Florida State as a whole is just not looking that good, and we see that on the recruiting trail trending down. The fourth team I have trending down is USC. USC is ranked 20th on 24/7 Sports, and last year I believe they had a top 10 class. If not, they were close to it. Don't let me jump the gun. But USC also, similar to Florida State, is not in a very good position. USC, similar to Florida State, missed a bowl game last year. And Clay Helton really needs something big to keep his job. Again, this is not a hot seat video, but looking for it, he needs success on the field next year. And for an immediate impact, a 20th ranked class is not going to cut it. Ever since Sam Darnold left USC, they've really been left with nothing, not much to do. And Clay Helton hasn't done, either by hiring coaches to recruit or recruiting himself, has not done enough, it seems, by following these rankings for USC to be where they need to be and where they really can be. And the last team I have trending down is the University of Miami, the U. It's crazy to think Miami is ranked 28th in recruiting in 2019 on 24/7 Sports. That is so low compared to last year. I believe last year they were a top 10 class with Mark Richt, and I know he had a sudden retirement, and Manny Diaz is coming down to that program. But it's like the recruiting in that process was lost. I don't know what happened, how to explain it, but Mark Richt didn't retire until after, I believe, the early signing period, and so I don't know how to explain it, but they're ranked 28th, and that's not a good sign for Miami. Now, I think Manny Diaz is the guy. I think he's a good coach, and I think he'll build the U back to the U. I really like what I think he's going to do with this program. I really like him coming down, and I hate it for Temple with that situation, what happened, but I understand it from Manny Diaz's point of view. He was a defensive coordinator. He was going to be a head coach, get some experience, and then probably come back once Mark Richt retired. But that came so earlier than anybody thought it would. And so somebody had to fill that job, and that was the dream job for Manny Diaz, similar to Willie Taggart at Florida State. And so it was just kind of the perfect storm for Manny Diaz to come back. Again, I hate it for Temple, but it makes sense for Miami and Manny Diaz. And I think as a whole, that program will be in a much better spot in 3 years or so. And they have some talent on that roster, and of course, the transfer quarterback Tate Martell. That will be interesting to see how that ends up and how it goes. But for this year, in this recruiting, they dropped so far that next year could be pretty difficult for Miami. The ACC is not their strongest conference, but they have the strongest team in college football with Clemson. And so it'll be interesting to see how the U does next year. New head coach, very energetic, very promising head coach. But there's some problems in that program. Some stuff they need to get worked out offensively and with recruiting. So 2 years' time, I think Miami will be in a better position than some of these other programs that I have trending down. But we'll see. Next year, it looks like it'll be a little dip for Miami, and then I expect them to rebound, but that's not a given. We'll see. We haven't seen enough of Manny Diaz yet to really be able to tell on that. So the recruiting cycle for this season, 2019, is finished. Where did your team end up? Let me know in the comment section down below where your team is ranked, whether it's 24/7, Rivals, ESPN. You tell me, how many ESPN 300 commits did your team get? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. And share this video with your friends. Thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, be goody now.